Hi guys, so we are back. This is LeadHer Shift, and I'm here talking to Karen all the way from London. And she's a fashion designer, but she's way more than that. And I can't wait to delve into the different layers to her different levels of experience because she has loads, and what's her understanding of leadership in general. So I'll turn over to Karen, and my first question is gonna be tell me a little bit about you. Tell me a little bit more about all the things that makes up Karen. What does
Oh
that
my
look like?
goodness. Oh goodness me. God, so much. So I was a teacher. I was a
Yes.
teacher for 28 years.
Wow.
I taught dance. My degree is in performing arts
Okay.
and I specialised in dance. So when I finished my degree, I did a little bit of, teaching here and there. And then I thought I'll go and get a qualification. We call it a postgraduate certificate in education. So I got
Right.
that, and then I went into teaching, moved to London from my hometown in Oxfordshire, went into
Nice.
teaching, and then just kept teaching dance, mixed school, girls' school, and then ended up in a boys' school.
Mhm.
But by that time, I was a pastoral leader, so I was a head of house,
Wow.
which is someone, what can I say? We're the link between the parent, the child, and the teacher.
Okay.
So if a child is unhappy, they can't learn. So our remit is to ensure that they are getting the best out of school by making sure that their home environment and outside environment all links together.
Right.
So basically, it also meant that if things, if they were getting into trouble, I was the person that they were brought to, that kind of thing.
Right.
Um, I don't know what the equivalent would be in Barbados, but yeah, that.
Yeah.
So then I stopped teaching in 2015.
Mhm.
I wasn't very well. I had a breakdown, and I ended up leaving teaching and spending a couple of years working out what I wanted to do, and also looking after myself.
Right.
I had always sewn. My mother from Barbados. My
Nice.
mother taught me how to sew when I was 15.
Yeah.
And I'd always sewn. So I'd always designed things and made things and when I met my partner and had my children, I made clothes for my girls and I
Right.
always made clothes for myself. So it was second nature. So
Mm.
when it came to leaving teaching, I wanted to work out. At the time I was 52. I'm 58 now. So at the time I was 52, and I figured I'm going to be on this earth for a good 40, 50 years. This
Right.
is my plan. I don't know what the universe plans for me. This is my plan. And so I wanted to curate the rest of my life doing what I love. And what I love is sewing and
Mm.
designing and working with women and talking to women about our bodies and what we love, and yeah, a lot of stuff. I think that's a bit rambly, but yeah, that's basically what I do. But I also teach people how to sew.
Right.
I also teach in classes in schools about sewing and fashion and that kind of thing. What else do I do? I talk about menopause a lot
Mm.
because when I left teaching, I started menopause and it hit me like a ton of bricks.
Mm.
um, and I advocate for women embracing getting older and everybody having a conversation about aging and menopause, not just women when it happens to them.
When it happens, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I feel that there's a lot of fear around um, stepping into menopause, or jokes if it's not actually happening to you. And I feel that the only reason we're scared about it is because people don't talk about it early enough. So there's that fear of the unknown.
So then I was just gonna pause you there
Sure.
and find out a little bit about what your thoughts are regarding generally the Black community. Because you say
Okay.
you mentioned that about aging, but I
Mm.
find generally in the Black community
Mm.
we don't talk about a lot of things.
mm, mm,
we often tend to stumble into
mm,
different phases of our life, especially
mm,
as women, as girls,
mm,
and leading into womanhood.
mm,
We tend to
mm,
stumble into puberty. We tend to stumble into all these different layers of ourselves.
mm, mm,
Was your thoughts
mm.
on that generally in terms of why these conversations don't happen?
I think often, I can't speak for the entire Black community, but I can speak from my experience. And my experience watching my mother is that she was in survival mode.
Right.
So often we are trying to live, you know, and
Hmm.
trying to put food on the table.
Right.
And these weren't necessarily conversations we have because they weren't. We were talking about education. Education is a big thing,
Right.
and getting the right education. So training to be something that would make you a lot of money and give you some status, like, you know, doctor, lawyer, the usual, teacher as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when it comes to things like, and also there's that emphasis on the way that you look as
Mm.
opposed to the way that you feel.
Right.
So, you know, as we know, melanin rich means that often we look a lot younger than we actually are.
Or
And
yeah.
so
Yeah.
those things to do with feelings and anything that might mean people knowing about your business
Yeah.
is actually something that we won't talk about. I remember
Yeah.
when I finally told my mother that I was in therapy, paying someone to talk to them about my business, because that's how she saw it. She told my late Aunt Monica, and my Aunt Monica called me ostensibly to tell me off. I mean, she
Mm.
didn't, it wasn't as harsh as I'm making it sound, but she was basically saying, you have people you can talk to in your family. Why are you talking to a stranger and
Yeah.
paying them? You know?
Why you putting it
So
outside the family
yeah,
in a way? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think that does us. I think that does us as a community and us as women, as never mind men. I haven't even got onto that subject. A
Yeah.
disservice, a
Yeah. Yeah.
disservice.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know. But there's also the thing around finding a therapist that will understand you. I had a Black therapist, and when I started with her, I had no idea how important that would become. That
Mm.
was 4 years ago now. Yeah, 5 years ago now. But as I got deeper into my recovery, I would say that it was invaluable talking to someone who we started on the same level. So I didn't have to explain anything to
Right. Or
get
any
to that point. Do you know
nuances?
what I
Or
mean?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And colonialism and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. I didn't have to explain, she just got it. So we could start and then move up together as opposed to me having to kind of catch her up.
Yeah.
And I feel that's really important, that people of colour should have therapists who get them
Right.
and understand our experience, share an experience.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
This is so interesting because I feel like I feel like the more I speak to women, especially in more recent times, and the more
Mm,
I kind of hear different stories, it all comes down the same line in a sense.
mm, mm,
Um,
mm, mm.
but let's circle back a little bit. So tell me about what is it that drives your passion for design and fashion design? And you know, you talked about uh teaching about your body and how you feel and how that is linked in a way to
I,
fashion. Talk to me about that. What is it?
I think that I've always been interested in fashion, and I was interested in trends, and I was interested in like seeing things in shops and thinking, oh, I can make that. Let's see if I can make that. I realised that I really like a challenge.
Right.
So I will make a lot of things based on, oh, I wonder if I could make that out of this fabric. And then once I've done it, I move on, that kind of thing.
Mm.
But also, when I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression when I left teaching, just before I left teaching. And so I actually, if you know anything about depression, you tend to lose the will to do the stuff that you used to love. So I didn't want to sew, and I wasn't interested in the way that I looked, and I wasn't interested in anything actually. But leaving my full-time, very stressful job meant that I had the space to really look at what I loved in my life and what I didn't love in my life, and also to turn the spotlight on me. We spend a lot of our time, particularly women, we're taught to nurture and we're taught to care for other people.
Yeah.
So I'd spent 5 decades, just, under 5 decades. I'm the eldest of 4. So, being the eldest child, not looking after my mum, but being around when my mum split from my father. Then you have your partner, and then you kids. All of that is about giving back, and then teaching, giving back. So I didn't have the opportunity to really look at my own life. And when I went into therapy, as I said, and when I started I did lots of things. I went into therapy, I got into meditation. I've always been someone who did a lot of stretching and yoga. I just took longer to do it. I developed a routine for myself, which meant that gave me some kind of grounding in the morning. And I started to notice that my relationship with fashion and clothing changed. So before I would, I was making a salary, I'd go into a shop and drop several £100
just
on
cons,
3 because
not think about
something
it,
new, something trendy. Of course, when I stopped teaching, I also didn't have that income, and I made a decision to. I didn't want to buy into fashion anymore, because I wasn't interested in the way that I looked. But then when I started to come through this, I started to use the clothes in my wardrobe to make me feel good. So, for example, in that same year, my Aunt Monica passed away suddenly. She went in and out of hospital, and then she didn't come out again. And I was the executor of her estate. So I had to look through all the stuff in her house, her flat, put it on the market, stuff like that. And when she went into hospital for the 3rd and final time, I remember fantasizing about what a great niece I would be when she came out. Because even though she lived in London, I didn't see her that much. And there was a guilt and shame around the fact that I hadn't been the perfect niece. So I missed her. And I missed the relationship that we never had, the relationship that I'd made up in my head. So I had a couple of pieces of her jewellery and a couple of skirts, vintage skirts. And I found that when I was missing her, maybe it doesn't sound odd. When I was missing her, I would reach for something that she'd worn because it made me feel like she was with me. And I started to notice that I called it Where You're Happy. So I would talk about it on social media. Yeah. So I would choose clothing to lift my mood. So for me, it'll be, I really like a nice lingerie set, just for me, not to show anybody else. I really love colour, clearly.
Yes. You're always vibrant, I must say.
Anybody can do this. It's about what you love in your wardrobe. Often, adulting is hard work, and often you get to a certain age, your body changes. You may or may not have children. You might have a stressful job. The point is, you're always doing. The last thing you're going to think about is matching a top with a skirt or looking trendy or that kind of thing. And actually, when we get to certainly menopausal age, or an age where you become the mother or the carer or that kind of thing, in the middle of that, we kind of lose ourselves. And fashion seems to be this kind of not very serious thing. So we have a uniform, which might involve a t-shirt and leggings if you're at home all the time, or you always end up wearing dark colours because we're told that they slim us, which they don't, by the way. Do you see?
Yeah.
So I decided to, whereas I feel that your wardrobe is a treasure trove. When you're little and you love dressing up, we lose that as we get older
We
because
do. Yeah.
we're told we have to look a certain
In a
way.
way. Yeah.
My argument is you shouldn't care. Shouldn't. It doesn't matter what you look like. If you feel good, how is it anybody else's business what you're wearing?
Yeah.
Do you see? And so I feel that menopause freed me, and depression freed me to not care what other people thought.
Mm.
And it means that every single thing in my wardrobe I love. And I might look like an explosion in a paint factory, and I might look like slightly unconventional, but I wear these things because I love them. So these
Right.
earrings are by a good friend of mine, a jewelry designer, and I love them because of the color, because they make a noise when I move my head, because they were made by my friend. This head wrap is a sarong that was given to me as a parting gift by my therapist, who I spent a long time with. So do you know what I mean? So it's about meaning, it's about texture, it's color, it's things that are close to your skin, it's memory, it's vintage. So many things in our wardrobe that we can turn to when we're feeling not so great.
Yeah.
And during lockdown, it's perfect because I am dressing every day. I don't dress up. I didn't dress up to come to talk to you. Every day, I dress as if I'm going to my studio or I'm going out.
But that's the thing, because we are in COVID now, and I mean
Same.
generally, like,
Yeah.
persons kind of fit themselves in a box. But like now we're at COVID, and most persons are either working from home, or they always used to work from home, or they're now finding a new normal because they don't have a job, whatever the case may be. And like, why dress up? Like, why, my question is like, why? Like, why? But at
Because
the same time, like, why not?
you dress up for you. The
Mm.
problem is that in the past, dressing up, the actual term, the dress up
Yeah,
is you're
yeah,
dressing up for
yeah,
somebody else.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that's not my point. My point,
yeah.
if I walk around my house in my hoodie and my leggings, by 5 o'clock, I'm not feeling so great and I'm wondering
Mm.
why.
Yeah.
Whereas when I get up in the morning, I never decide what I'm going to wear the next day.
Right.
I get up in the morning and my honest to God thought is, how do I want to feel
Feel
today?
today. Yeah.
Do you see? So
But
then
that's
I'm
just,
like,
that's so funny, Karen, because I feel like it's so funny. You say, how do I want to feel? Whereas most persons, I feel, get up, even if they don't plan it, they say, how do I feel? And they dress
yeah,
for how they currently feel, not how
thank
they
you.
want to feel.
Yes.
And
And
I think that is
often,
a main point there.
yeah, and we often dress the way we feel,
Yeah.
which means often if we are feeling like we don't want to show our body, or we're feeling like down, or it's raining outside, or we reach for dark clothes,
Mm.
or we reach for clothing that hides our body, we reach for clothing that maybe has holes in it because it's easy, because why not? No one's going to see me. This
Yeah.
is about, for me, it's about self-worth. Am I
Right.
not worthy of looking my best for me? I did
Right.
not put on matching bra and knickers for you because you're not going to see it.
Yeah.
I put them on because I feel great when I put
Mm.
them on. And I feel that women in particular get a raw deal, full stop, but definitely when it comes to fashion in the
Yeah.
past, I will say, because things are changing. Fashion psychology is certainly on the rise, and people are cottoning on to choosing clothes to lift their mood. I understand that. But I
Yeah.
feel that because fashion is based on, let's face it, it's based on getting you to buy something. This is why there are
Yes.
seasons. This is
Commercialist.
why there are
Yeah.
trends.
Yeah.
They do not have your best interests in heart. They want you to part with your hard-earned cash. That's it. So of course, the seasons, the trend, in order to feel that you're relevant, they will want you to buy something that is a certain length or has a
Yeah.
puff sleeve or this kind of thing.
'Cause you got to
Whereas
keep up. Yeah.
right, but the other side to that is it's not sustainable, because I was watching a program today. We have something called the Great British Sewing Bee, which is a competition for home sewers, to find the best home sewer in Great Britain. And one of the challenges was about making clothes out of clothes. So upcycling clothes, making new things out of
Right.
old things.
Right.
And the statistic was that there are enough clothes currently on the planet to clothe 6 generations of people. The point
Wow.
being, we don't have to buy any more clothes, because
Yeah.
there's enough clothing. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I guarantee that if you look in your wardrobe, you will find clothes that you haven't worn for years, or clothes that you can't fit into, or clothes that you bought and never wore. You know, we tend to reach for the same thing. If we want to look at our consumption, champion sustainable fashion, that's about shopping in your own wardrobe,
Yeah.
looking at,
Shopping in your own wardrobe. I love that.
yeah, well, if you think about it, when you go to your wardrobe, the clothes in front of you, if you're right-handed, the clothes in front of you or slightly to the right, and if you're left-handed, slightly to the left, are the clothes that you always wear.
Yeah.
And so there will be clothes to the far reaches of your wardrobe that you don't really wear. I
Yeah.
challenge you to take, I don't know, 3 items from one side and 3 items from one side, and put them in the middle and wear those.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating.
It's simple. Yeah.
I offer a styling service where I help clients before COVID, to look in their wardrobe and help them to send the stuff that they haven't worn for ages to charity shop, but also wear things in a different way and choose the clothes that they truly love, so they can wear their happy, wear your
Right.
happy style. And you'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't, how many items of clothing we have that we do not wear, or clothes that we wear because we feel we should, as opposed to because we
Good.
like them.
I think I think I think I think that's more it. Clothes we think we should, because
Mm,
we might look a certain way or give a
mm,
certain message,
mm,
or
mm.
people will accept us
Yeah, it's about
better.
fitting in.
Yeah, is more about
Yeah,
fitting in, or more about
yeah,
how would other people see me if I wore this versus that,
yeah, yeah,
and I think
yeah,
it's more about the should.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not that we don't want to dress up, it's just that I think sometimes we feel that it's, I don't know, maybe not serious enough, or not, we won't be taken seriously, you
Yeah.
know. And this goes for men as well as women, but I
Yeah.
focus on women because I'm interested in how we become, we're expected to become smaller as we get older. But actually,
Mm.
we have more knowledge, we have more experience. Surely, this is when we need to be shouting from the rooftops. I'm here, I have the experience, I have this knowledge. I'm a relevant person. Just because I can't have kids anymore, I don't look a certain way, doesn't mean that I'm not relevant. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
that I can't contribute. Doesn't mean that I won't add value to a situation.
Yeah.
So I think, certainly for me, menopause has liberated me. I'm much more, I'm me. I'm authentically me. And that sounds really, but it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
I try not to do things that I don't love. I have a very small circle. I speak my truth. All these phrases, I'm bring them out, mate. Yeah, I'm full of it. I'm full of it, guys. No, but I try to only say what I believe in. I spent years not doing that. I spent years. I come across as quite a gregarious and extrovert person, and to some extent I am. But at work, certainly, I wouldn't speak my mind because I was so scared of being found out. Imposter syndrome, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
You know. So I never did any of the things I could have said. Way. But
Oh
you know,
no.
yeah, I think it's time older women, stood up and reclaimed, our power, because
Mm.
this menopause is a freeing if we put symptoms and the physical stuff aside and the bad stuff aside, the other side to that is actually it can be incredibly liberating and empowering, and it lasts for a long time. So the transition is can be celebrated. I think menopause is something to be celebrated, not to be feared. So start talking about it now, guys.
Just so everyone is aware, for all those people in the back.
Just in case you didn't, for the people at the back, just in case you didn't hear me. It's the thing.
Karen, do you think, I'm going to throw this at you and you can share your thoughts on this. Do you...
I'm worried now.
No, don't be worried. Do you think the anxiety and depression that you were diagnosed with is a burden of the leadership you had? The leadership role or position or...
Look at you. Okay, so there is a trope of the strong, I'm going to throw it at you, the strong black woman trope about not being able to show your feelings and carrying on anyway, getting up and carrying on anyway. I watched, and it's generational, so we watch our family, often but not always, the women in the family, perhaps from my point of view, my mother split with my father when I was 15, and I watched my mum just get up and get on with it on the whole. You know, don't get me wrong, she had a cry and she was upset, but on the whole, my memory of it is of her getting a job, putting food on the table, carrying on. She has 4 children, I was the eldest. I am the eldest, I mean. You know, decades later, I did exactly the same thing. When I split from my partner, my primary objective was to make sure my children were all right. So I put all my energies into making sure my job was secure. I put all my energy into my job and into my girls. So, and at some point, when we mask our feelings and when we don't attend to ourselves, that stuff's got to come out somehow.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
You know? And so my breakthrough, I want to call it a breakdown, but I broke up with my former self.
That's a good way to look at it. That's interesting.
I don't see it. We call it a breakdown, but it wasn't a breakdown. I am grateful to that time in my life. As traumatic as it was, it's brought me here in front of you.
Yeah.
On, you know, now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel that if we don't attend to ourselves and if we don't acknowledge that we need care as well and put ourselves first, then it can all go horribly wrong.
Yeah.
And so I've forgotten the question.
Oh dear.
But I feel that the feeling that we can't share our feelings, look after ourselves, feeling that looking after yourself is selfish in some way, means that we put other people first, and we keep doing it until we're stopped in our tracks. And I was stopped in my tracks. The universe was like, right, you're not listening to me. Hear what? This is what we're going to do. Bish, bash, bosh. You know? That's how. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah, but you summed it perfectly, because often the burden of leadership, we interpret that the burden of leadership means that we aren't to put ourselves first at any point. We often think that leadership means, although we're supposed to be serving others, that leadership means we forget ourselves in the process, or we stop remembering that we are part of the process and we need to take care of ourselves at the same time.
And I feel that I would never have, if you'd have asked me a few years ago, are you a leader? Yeah. I would have been like, no. I'm just doing what I do. But I realised that I am only, I suppose, recently in the last 2 years or so, I've realised I am a leader, because
Yeah.
I've always been someone who's like, I want, if something isn't happening the way I want it to happen, or it's not happening until I'm like, I'll do it then. I may as well do it then. Do you see
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And I also realised that I like to get up and get on with things when something. Okay, so here's the thing. I have 2 daughters,
Yeah.
and my 2 daughters are 25 and 29. And they, on the whole, your children don't really take a lot of notice of what you say to them after a while. They
Yeah.
listen to you up until like 10 or 11.
Hmm.
And then they go to secondary school, and then they have their friends, and then they listen to their friends, and their friends become the most important. And that's why, guys, get to know your children's friends very well.
Mm.
So I could tell my child not to do something, but if I do not lead and show them,
Right.
then they're not gonna. I'm a hypocrite.
Yeah.
So when I finally went into therapy, what I was saying with my actions was, I know that I'm worthy, and that gives you permission to look after yourselves as well. And that was 5 years ago. Now I talk to my daughters as grown-ups, and these are conversations we have. It's about, if I could complain until the cows come home about how my job was stressful and I didn't like it and they're treating me a certain way. I could do that. But unless I did something about it, I could still be complaining and I could still be ill. I could have taken time off, gotten better, and then gone back to teaching. But
Right.
then I would just be complaining. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the reason that I do what I do, whatever that might be, whether it's fashion design, whether it's sewing, teaching people to sew, whether it's talking about menopause, whether it's where you're happy, all that stuff, is because I want my girls to understand that if you're not happy with your life, then you have the power to change it. And these things don't happen overnight, but you can't be, what's the phrase? You can't be what you can't see. Can you? So if my girls
That's it.
saw me
That's it.
doing a job I hated until I died, then they would think they would have to do the same thing. I'm not having
Yeah.
that for my girls. I want my girls to dream big. I want them to dream outside of my dreams, because I want them to live a fulfilling lives. And if they don't, just because you don't see, I'm trying to think of an example. When I was young, I never saw any I didn't know any artists of colour. I'd studied art, but I didn't know any artists of colour.
Right.
Now, my youngest child is an artist, and she sees lots of artists on social media.
Yeah.
We have friends who are artists. Do you see?
Yeah.
So I feel almost a duty to live my life as big as I can, so that I can enable not just my children to see that, but also people coming up, women who see me doing what I like at my age.
Yeah.
They can feel that they can do the same thing. Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
To
it does.
me, it
Because
sounds like rubbish.
no, it makes perfect sense. And recognizing that representation matters. It matters to
Mate,
how, yeah, it
so
matters.
much.
Yeah, it matters to how you see yourself. It matters to what you think you're capable of. It
And I
matters
would
to,
say,
yeah.
if you Google menopause and then click on images, see if black women come up.
Mm.
Because that's a thing of mine.
I never
That's a
thought
thing
about
of
that,
mine.
but yeah.
I did a modelling campaign for a large
Yeah, see, you're a model now.
glasses, spectacle wearers, darling,
Yeah.
Specsavers. It was a job, and I went along and I got the job. Now, what I didn't know was they were going to use I knew they were going to use my image, but they ended up putting my image on a leaflet to advertise their glasses that went through homes all throughout Great Britain and Ireland.
Wow.
So, of course, people start to tag me on social media because they're getting these leaflets coming through their door. My point is this: first of all, props to Specsavers for choosing that image, because there were other models there. They could have chosen something else. They
Yeah.
chose to
Yeah.
take my menopausal 58-year-old face and put it on leaflets. Now, that says a lot for that brand, but also it meant that people could see that older women can be models, older Black women can be
Yeah.
models.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? I
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
like, what am I trying to say? I feel like it's important that the message gets out there that, you know, Black folks do lots of different things and are in all parts of society. And if modeling is my way of reaching those people, then so be it. And the
Yeah.
conversations I had with, you know, women who would send me messages, you know, got very excited about seeing someone who looks like them
Yeah.
on a generic piece of paper that came through their door. So
Yeah.
it's really important that we step up and step out,
And
and not be quiet.
I would add to
Something
that,
like that.
not be afraid to do more than just one thing. Because I think
Oh my
is
God.
is one of those things where we, I almost feel like we stay in just one lane, or feel like we can only be in one lane and not, you
Listen,
know, and not
but,
do multiple things and enjoy.
but we're taught that. We're taught
Yeah,
that, Alian. When I was at school, we had a careers advisor, and the careers advisor told me that I should get a job in a bank. And I laugh now because that's so far
a
from what
job
I
in a,
wanted to
okay.
do. So I know for a fact that my dad wanted me to be a doctor, but fortunately, he left the family home just before I took my options at school. So when I said to my mum, I really like dancing, I want to do a degree in performing arts, my mum was like, whatever makes you happy. And that
Right.
set me on the path to do what I wanted. But the other
Mm,
side to that is my generation certainly, were taught that you have one job, one career, and you stick to it.
one career,
So
yeah.
when I left teaching, two things happened. First of all, I floundered because when people asked me what I did, I was quite proud to say I was a teacher.
Mm,
But when I left, I was like, well, what will I be? I'd been a teacher for almost 3 decades. I couldn't work out what I could be. Then I floundered because I thought I had to choose one thing.
right.
So when people say to me, oh, what do you do? Well, I do lots of things,
Things,
but
yeah.
my title is a fashion
Fashion
designer and a
designer.
sewing tutor. Actually, I'm so much more. And I feel that, you know, when young people coming up, young Black folks coming up, whatever, they need to understand that you can do whatever you want to do. You can do lots of different things. You don't have to fit into a neat little box for
Yeah,
people to label you. Do you
yeah,
see?
yeah,
And I have to say, I will, if I like it, if you ask me to do something and you're going to pay me, and
yeah,
I and it's something that is generally on the way. I have a vision for what I want to be doing in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, then I'm going to do it. If I think I'm
yeah,
going to have fun, I can try it once. That's how I fell into modeling, because someone said, oh, you know, would you go for a casting? I was like, oh, I've never done that, I'll do that. And then they said, well, would you go for this photo shoot? And I was like, I've never done that, I'll do that. And the next thing, do you see?
yeah,
Um, we we are in the habit of making ourselves small and narrowing ourselves because we're told, especially at school, that that's what we're supposed to do. But I say, do it all.
yeah,
Do it all. Do as
yeah,
much as you can. Um, yeah, do it all. I'm excited to see I'm excited to see what I'm going to be doing in the next few years. Also, I'm excited to see what, you know, my children and my children's friends, how they're going to evolve and step up, because,
yeah,
you know, if this pandemic has taught us nothing, is teaching us that we have to swerve. You
yeah,
know, I've swerved. I went from having private clients in my studio to making face covers. you know.
Right.
And that's my little bit of where you're happy going out into the world in colourful fabric.
Yeah.
But I feel that being adaptable and being open to new ideas and finding things out and evolving and that kind of helps you to find what you're good at and what you love and what your purpose is. And then, you know, there should be no stopping you.
Yeah. And I mean, like I'm hearing so much, but I think one of the main things that is standing out for me, especially because there's two things. So in terms of leadership and how we lead and even seeing ourselves as leaders, is almost like we have a perception, especially growing up, that in order to see ourselves as leaders, we must have a title, right?
Mm-hmm.
But part, in addition to that, part of leadership is knowing when to say yes and how much times yes is necessary in order to get different opportunities that help us to find what makes us happy, but
Mm.
knowing where we want to go enough that we must learn how to say no as well.
Yes,
Because
there's
there are things,
boundaries.
yeah, so setting parameters for how much we do, what we do, when we do it, who we do it with, all
Yeah.
those kind of things is, so for me, setting that setting that kind of standard or foundation for yourself is part of leadership. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that
Yeah. And
specifically?
I learned that the hard way.
Yeah,
Because I went from, you know, 28 years of a salary
right.
and being and yes, I'm being told what to do. I was told what to do. It's teaching. You have to fit within certain boundaries, don't you?
Yeah.
So when I went from that to freelance, I didn't know the first thing about business. Not
Mm,
a clue.
yeah.
I didn't know how to price. I was scared. I didn't know how good I was at what I do. My God, I had no self-worth.
Mm,
Whenever somebody told me that they liked what I made, in my head I was like, oh, they're only saying that because they're either related to me or my friend.
right.
I didn't charge enough. So I did everything. So whenever somebody said to me, oh, you should make this, I'm like, oh, I'll make that. Hated doing it, but
Mm,
did it because I thought, oh, and I would lower my prices because I thought, oh, that means that otherwise they won't come to me.
yeah.
I worked from I came from scarcity, so I would
Mm,
think that if somebody did something similar to me, that meant that it would take away from me. I'm not that person anymore, by the way.
yeah.
And it took a lot of trial and error, and also me setting boundaries.
Mm,
That meant, and also that feeling of abundance, what is it, abundance mindset, because
mm,
I strongly believe that not only will I be fine, but I will thrive, and I thrive because the money will come,
yeah.
and I thrive because I don't do what I don't want to do,
Right.
and I say no, but also that I say yes to. I read that
Yeah.
book
Yeah.
by what's her name, Shonda Rhimes. No, Shonda
Mm,
Rhimes.
Shonda. Yeah.
Yeah, Shonda Rhimes, The Year of Yes, or The Year
Yeah.
of Saying Yes, something like that. That's such a good book, man. Such a
Yeah.
good book. And what happens is you say yes to one thing, and the next thing comes along, and the next thing comes along, and the next thing comes along.
It's
But
almost like a
also
domino effect,
right, but
Yeah.
also when you step out, it's like the cartoon where they get to the cliff and then they step out, and then something comes up, and you don't fall. You don't if you step into that kind of feeling of thinking you're going to fall, but actually you will be fine. If you believe you will be fine, you'll be fine. That was a
Yeah.
long-winded way of saying, you know, to keep trying and keep going,
Yeah.
and just, what's the worst that could happen? Can I just say, I'm very good at giving this advice, not so good at taking it,
Mm,
but I am aware of and I am aware of sometimes feeling too scared to do things. But, you know, I have a good support network around me.
Yeah.
And I think everything happens when it's supposed to happen,
Yeah, that's true.
you know?
That's
So,
it.
yeah, again, don't know what the question was, but hey, here we are.
You keep killing me.
I know, right?
Um, was one piece of, because I heard a lot of things in terms of, your unsurety of how to even build this business, what to even do, like what steps I need to take, how I need to price, all these different things. So for some professional out there who's now starting out, now trying to figure out, their life and what they're doing and how what they're passionate about, what their purpose is, even how to grow in themselves more so than the business or the career that they have. Like, what's one piece of advice you would give them?
Oh,
I mean,
mate,
do you have 10?
I
But
don't know.
yes, you do. You have loads of
Okay,
knowledge.
okay. So I would say what I say to my girls. What do I say to my girls? I say do what you love, but I don't know whether that's business advice, because I
It is,
the thing is that you can say this is interesting, because I've read lots of things and I've heard lots of advice, but also if you're not ready, when you're not ready to hear something, you don't hear
right.
it.
Yeah,
So
true.
what I say, I've had said to me, and at the time I'm like, that's right. I remember hearing people say, oh yeah, do what you love and the money would follow. And I'm thinking, no, it won't. That's
Well,
ridiculous.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And yet, here I am. Do you see? I
Case
would,
in point.
right? So I think I will say the best thing I ever did was outsource the stuff I hate. So I have
Mm,
a fear around numbers, which is funny, seeing as I measure things. But I have a fear around, it's a childhood thing about being rubbish at maths. I'm not rubbish at maths, I just don't like doing it. And I used to make myself feel physically sick having to do my tax return every
mm,
year. And the year I decided to spend the money on an accountant, oh my God, accountants are amazing people,
hmm.
because they do this. Like, some people like to do their tax return, or they don't want to pay for someone to do it. Fair enough. And I'm sure that if I put my mind to it, I could do it. But I
Yeah.
also would get myself into such a state about it. It's not worth it. Pay the
Mm,
money. So if there's something that that is causing you anxiety to the point where you're procrastinating, or you're not doing it, or you're worried about it, there are people out there you can pay, and it is worth every single
penny.
penny.
Yeah.
I would also say put your money back into your business.
Mm,
I would it, even though when we make money and we get so excited and we don't want to spend it, because you look at how much business cards cost and how much hosting a website costs and all that kind of stuff, but the money's worth it. And I would also say, sorry, social
sorry.
media is not yours. If
Mm,
Instagram goes down tomorrow,
that's
if
so
WhatsApp goes
powerful.
down tomorrow, where are your clients coming from? So
Exactly.
get your own website, and then all
Yes.
your stuff, your blog, my website. I love my website, I love my website, because bottom line, all that social media stuff, the point is to drive it to my website. I have somewhere. So I'm not telling anybody to WhatsApp me.
That is
And
it.
I'm not telling anybody to, oh, I'm on. What about all the people who were on MySpace,
Hmm.
or the people who are on Bebo? Or, do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
If all those things suddenly stop working, at least you've got somewhere that is yours. That's mine. That's my copyright. So
That's the thing.
that's my advice.
What people don't recognize is that's where you find your clients. That's not where
Yeah,
you constantly meet them. Those are
right.
two different things. So you find them there, but you funnel them to you,
Yeah,
right? This
yeah.
is so good.
And a newsletter.
This
Sorry,
is
I
so
got one more
good.
thing.
Hmm.
Get a mailing list. So
Yes.
get people somehow. I mean, I think my mailing list is small, but they're mine, you know? So if I really want to say something, I send a newsletter.
Yeah.
My goal is to actually send one out regularly, but we're not going to talk about that. But the point is, having clients that have signed up because they like what you do is invaluable. It's
Yeah.
invaluable because you have a ready, captive audience.
Yeah.
Do you see?
Yeah.
So, you know, Instagram's great. You know, Facebook's great, Twitter's great, all of that. But really and truly,
It doesn't belong to you, right?
it's not yours. It's not
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah.
And if you lose your password or you can't get in, or they suddenly go, you know, belly up, you've still got, as long as we've got Wi-Fi, you've still got things that are yours, your blogs, your newsletter, your offering, whatever it is. The number of times people have said to me, have you got a website? I'm like, yep,
I
here
do.
you go. Boom.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. You know? And I will say, there are two. Okay, so 3 years ago, a blog came out, and it was the 25 top African tailors in London. No one was more surprised than me that I ended up on this list.
Nice.
I don't know whether it was brilliant because I just started. I don't know whether it was in any particular order, but I was number 16.
Mm-hmm.
But my friends were very excited about this. I was having difficulty kind of owning it, but hear me out. My point is this. I went onto that list and I clicked on every single one. You know, I got to number 12 before I found someone with a website.
Mm.
So people were coming to me. I now have a thing where on my website, if you fill in a form, I ask you how you found me.
Right.
And it's still from that blog, because if you clicked on someone, it led to a number, it might lead to a landing page, whereas because I had a fully fledged website, and the women loved the blog because I talk about, you know, issues that were pertaining to them. That's how I picked up my clients. So all this time I thought, oh, well, I'm number 16. People are going to just click on number 1 and number 2.
Yeah. No.
Do you see?
No.
So it's an interesting. I've learned so much by getting it horribly wrong.
Mm.
And also, it's funny, I said about how you hear what you need to hear when you're ready to hear it.
Mm.
I would never have predicted that I'd be in the situation I'm in, because I always had myself as not being a risk taker. So I thought I didn't take risks. So this is me deciding I don't take risks. The woman who left her job and left her partner. I mean,
those are huge.
you know, they're quite big.
Yeah.
They're quite big things.
Pretty big.
But and I didn't want to fail. You hear those things about you have to, you know, it's not failing, it's a lesson. And that's absolutely true. But because I've always been a perfectionist, and I'm still working on that, because it serves me, but it doesn't serve me at the same time. It meant that I didn't want to fail. So I would move like this, when actually all the time I was failing, they were lessons.
Yeah.
And so you may as well just get on with it.
Yeah.
You know, because that will take you further and further and further to wherever you're meant to be. And where you're meant to be might not be where you think you're going. I couldn't have predicted this.
That's the thing, you know, because you speak about failing, but from my perspective, failing is when you stop. And at no point did you ever stop. So for me, failing is more when you decide that's it and you don't do anything at all. So
it's
almost
true.
like you cut off your water flow, and the rest of the path is dry.
Yeah.
Right? But you kept going, so there was, even if it was a little trickle, it's still some form of water flowing. So you didn't really
got to
fail.
look at the big picture. Yeah, and you got to look at the big picture. If I get up tomorrow and I don't do anything that I consider worthwhile, because obviously it's relative, that doesn't mean the following day I'm not going to.
Exactly.
I'm
Exactly.
this the fact that I'm not in my studio, and what I did is I moved my sewing machine and my fabric to my kitchen table just before lockdown was announced.
Right.
Hallelujah. Which means that I've been able to continue to do my business, my new business, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking my next step is about letting my current clients know that how I'm going to navigate COVID, how I'm going to safeguard them and myself, how I move gradually back to my studio, but also what my offer is going to be, because
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the online, which I've been faffing about for months, that maybe I should actually get on with it, but also whether I'm going to continue making face covers, how I'm going to, do you see what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
really made me when it first started, I was like, oh my God, how am I going to pay my bills? I'm not about to lose my house, all that kind of stuff. Now it's like, okay, how are we going to take this forward? How am I going to take
Yes.
what I've learned and move it into the next year, 2 years, etc.? It's exciting, scary, but exciting too.
I think the internet, as scary as it can be, having the internet at this stage, at this time, with this pandemic and all that is happening in the world,
Mm,
is the beautiful thing about all that's
mm.
happening in the world,
Yeah,
because with just connectivity, even this podcast, this interview, we
yeah,
could do this,
yeah,
and this
yeah,
is something that we couldn't, if this had happened, let's say 10, 15 years ago, it wouldn't be possible. So, I
exactly.
mean, I think we're in a beautiful space in the world where
Yeah.
if you don't take the opportunity now, it more likely will pass you by,
I,
for
I,
sure.
I feel that, okay, I agree with some of that, but I also think that we must not forget that we are in unprecedented times. And
Yes.
we must
Yes.
remember that no one knows what's going to happen next. And that in
That's
itself is
true.
causing anxiety.
That's
So
true.
people are living with grief, they're living with shock, they're living with trauma. Some people are locked down with people they don't like.
That's
They might be on their own. That will be
that's it.
affecting their mental well-being.
Hmm.
So I think, yes, there is I remember when it first kicked off and people on social media were going berserk. I'm going to learn a new language. I'm going to start a new business. I'm going to do this. Me, I was thinking, boy, I just want to get from day to day at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really important that we put ourselves first and we put our mental well-being first and then move on. But
Mm.
there is some, there's a positive to seizing the day, but we need to look at the long haul. This is my personal opinion, but
Yeah.
hear me out.
Yeah.
I can't be rushing around trying to do this, and this when in 2 months' time that means I'm going to be burnt out.
Right.
Do you see? So
Yeah.
whilst there are things that we could take advantage of, the other side to that is, and I would say to anybody who goes into business on their own, because I used to think everybody could be a business person, I used to think everybody could be freelance. I didn't think that it was something that was a big deal. I now
Yeah.
realise it's a massive deal, and you do have to have certain skills.
Yeah.
And one of those skills needs to know how to look after yourself.
Right.
Because if I didn't put myself first, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I would have got another teaching job.
That's
That's what
it.
would have happened. And I wouldn't, because I'd been sewing on the side. Because I don't do anything without making sure I've got this in place first.
Yeah.
And it means that I move more slowly, and not physically.
Yeah.
It means that my pace of life is slower, but it's much richer because
Mm.
I can appreciate the day.
Mm.
Actually, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't love everything I do. Who likes answering emails and doing invoices and chasing people for money? I don't like doing that. It's not fun. But the bigger picture is I'm building my own little empire,
Yeah.
and I'm leaving a legacy. And I'm reaching people in a way that I never thought would be possible.
Mm.
So I'm good.
Yeah,
You know,
man.
I'm good.
Oh, Karen, listen, it's such always a joy. Honestly, it's such
We should
always a
speak
joy to
more.
talk. Yes, I agree. We have so, I mean, I feel like even in this, there's so much more I could just take out and have a whole conversation about it. But just for this context and for this particular conversation, I
Oh,
just want to
dear.
end by saying thank you so much.
Okay.
This
Oh,
has
my
been an
pleasure.
absolute pleasure. Um, I feel like you bring so much different perspectives to the table and also a different spin with all your vibrance. And yeah, man, let's do this again at some point.
Yeah, man.
Um,
Who would have thought when we met,
yeah, I
however
know.
long ago it
I
was,
know. I know, man.
sharing our roti.
I sharing our roti. Oh my goodness,
Mate,
memories,
I could murder a roti now, boy. I can't wait
memories,
to get back to Barbados. I'm telling you, man.
memories. But for now,
No,
that was
thank you.
LeadHer Shift. You're welcome, absolutely. And let's catch up again next time.